So that brings us to what seizures are. Now, how do we stop seizures, right? Let's get into kind of like the medical part. What's the deal? And frankly, why is a neurosurgeon talking about this? Well, one non-surgical way that we stop seizures is by medications, right? You can take medications and then they get dissolved in your blood, and all anti-epileptic drugs, while there's a lot of different very specific mechanisms, as a general summary, what anti-epileptic drugs do is they basically tamp down all of the activity in the entire brain, right? If you're taking a drug and it's going in your bloodstream, it's going to be distributed everywhere in the brain. So if you abbreviate an anti-epileptic drug, AED, it goes into the blood and it has all the neurons be a little bit less excitable. That's a kind of an oversimplification, but generally it's kind of what it is. So it makes everything a little bit less excitable. And for most people, like 2/3 of people with epilepsy is just the term for if you have recurrent seizures, right? So for most people who get seizures or who have epilepsy, you can take 1 or 2 drugs and can never have seizures again, right? A lot of people can be very well controlled with these drugs. However, one thing people often complain about these drugs is the side effects. They don't feel good, or sometimes they even get like allergic reactions to them. But overall, a lot of people say, oh, it makes me sleepy, or I don't feel like myself. And the reason why they're having these side effects is because the drugs are telling all of the neurons in the brain to be a little bit less excitable, right? And so that's why a lot of them do have kind of a sedating effect and make you a little bit more sleepy, right? That's generally what's going on. So one way we stop seizures is through medications. Another way is for that kind of third-ish of people who aren't well controlled on just a couple of medications. Those other folks, often we will work them up and see if there is maybe a way that we can do surgery to cure the seizures or cure the epilepsy. Historically, usually what we were looking for is whether the seizures are coming from a specific part in the brain. Sometimes, if those seizures are just coming from one part in the brain, often it's in the temporal lobe, but could be from anywhere. Sometimes you can do surgery to remove that one abnormal spot in the brain, and for a lot of people, that also can cure them, right? Now, over the past couple decades, we've actually developed some other interesting tools using implantable electrical devices that also have some effect on seizures. And basically, what we do is we put electrodes, this is my diagram of electrodes, either in an area that has seizures or in an area that may have connections to other places that have seizures, and we'll run current through those electrodes. And so that current also affects all of the neurons that are between those 2 electrodes, or that are targeted by the place that we're stimulating. And often that can make seizures a lot less frequent, or just less bad in general. Sometimes it can be curative, but often that's a way that we can basically make the seizures not as bad, not as frequent, all right? So those are a couple ways. We can use medication. We can sometimes do surgery to resect a part of the brain that may be abnormal or may be causing the seizures. Or we can also put electrical devices into the brain that can make the seizures less frequent, right? By just running electrical current across all of these neurons.